Welcome back, everybody. Beautiful decorations kicking off today. Well, welcome back to the show. One of our guests today is a legendary. That word is overused, but it fits the guest. Producer and songwriter, I would say iconic. Jimmy Jam has worked with icons like Janet Jackson, Mariah Carey, Boyz II Men. I could go on, but it would take up the rest of the show. And thanks to a new book, he's reconnected with his father. It's called Deeper Blues, the life songs and salvation of Cornbread Harris. Audience, give it up for Jimmy Jam and music journalist and author Andrea Swensson, everybody. Good buddy. Thank you for being here. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? Both.
Wonderful.
How are you both doing?
Wonderful.
Let me start at the very beginning because we have a lot of time, but there's just so much to get through. How did this relationship start? Because I love that on my sheet, you are referred to as the book lady.
Yes.
The book lady.
That is my official title.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did this start? Whoever wants to take that.
Well, I can talk about how I met Jimmy and his father.
Yeah.
So I've been a music journalist in town for 20 years or so now, and I met Cornbread, Jimmy's father, when he came to visit me at NPR, where I worked. And then around the same time, Jimmy and Terry came home to do the Super Bowl. If you remember, they did 10 shows outside in 3-degree weather in January during the Super Bowl.
Cold chum.
Yes.
Cold chum, yeah.
And that was the first time that he and I had ever met in person. And I had just released a book about the Minneapolis sound and gave him and Terry copies. So we started a relationship. And then about 3 or 4 years later, in 2021, he reached out and said, hey, would you help me get in touch with my father? I'm going to be in town. I'd like to see him. And what I didn't know at the time was how estranged they were. Jimmy texted me after they had met up and said that was actually the first time they'd spoken in 35 years.
Well, Jimmy, what was it about that conversation? And Andrea, what made you, because over 35 years, there probably were other opportunities. What was it? Was something speaking to you about now is the time to do it?
I think the biggest thing that now looking back on it, I realized that the story really was that my father left basically when I was 15 years old because he wanted to pursue music. And the fact that he had gotten married and kind of agreed to give up music and work a regular job, he basically kind of sacrificed what he wanted to do for a living in order to raise me. I didn't really make that realization until after I had raised my kids. And then I realized that I wanted to, if he was feeling any sort of guilt or any sort of, I wanted him to know I had no bitterness or no remorse or anything. Like I felt like I just wanted him to feel like I appreciated everything that he had done for me. And I didn't realize it until later on because my mom let me drop out of high school to pursue music. And somebody said, do you think the reason your mom let you do that is because she didn't let your dad pursue it? And that was the thing that just kind of went bing.
Isn't it funny, as a guy, myself, my dad and I were not close. We barely spoke until right before he died. Isn't it funny, Jimmy, how time washes away the rough edges or what you think you're mad about or what you think you're keeping you apart? It just, when it comes down to it, it just doesn't damn matter, does it, at the end?
No, and one of the questions I get asked a lot is, well, did he apologize? And I said no, because he didn't need to apologize. There was nothing to apologize for. I look at my life and the way I turned out, the person that I am, the way I raised my kids, and they were all based on the examples that him and my mom set forth for me growing up in Minneapolis. So I don't have any of that. I felt like, let's move forward. We don't need to wash the past or any of that. It's just, let's move forward.
And Andrea, what was it like for you being kind of the catalyst and the mover? I mean, you're moving this forward. You've done a lot. You've written a lot. For people watching around the country, I said icon and legend for Jimmy. Andrea is a music icon. Been covering it for you. You are. You can be humble. I can brag about you. What was it like turning the boat to make this happen?
Well, I learned that if you want two people to talk to each other, you just need a project. And the book became the project, and it became this thing that the three of us were working on. And I started out talking to them separately. I went out to LA and I interviewed Jimmy for, 6 or 7 hours at his studio about his memories. And then I brought his memories back to Cornbread and, kind of shared what he had told me. And then I said, hey, what if the three of us got on a Zoom call and we could do kind of a joint interview together? And that very quickly evolved into weekly Zoom calls, and I kind of stepped back and back out of the picture and asked fewer questions just to give them time to be together.
And what were those first Zooms like?
Well, a lot of it on his side was fascinated with the technology that we could actually have this conversation and talk and get him set up. But it almost, if you remember the book Tuesday at Maury's, I think
Tuesday with Maury.
Yeah, that's what it turned into. Like literally every Tuesday we'd get on the calls, on these Zoom calls, and sometimes, as Andrea said, she would ask a question, and we'd go into something. But sometimes it would just be he would sit at the piano and just play, because his piano was always behind him. So he would always just turn around in the middle of a conversation and just start playing a song. And then I had my little home studio, so I would start playing along with him. So we kind of had this musical conversation, over the Zoom, which was amazing. But I would bring up things that maybe he had forgotten. He'd bring up things I'd maybe forgotten. And meanwhile, the book lady was recording
right there.
Everything. Yeah.
When we come back, Jimmy and the book lady are going to tell, especially the youngins out there, why if you don't know who Cornbread is, you should. That and more when we come back. Back in a moment, everybody. Thank you both for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
Let's make it again.
Welcome back. Jimmy Jam. The book lady, or as we, Andrea Swensson is here, legend. Either, both can take this, especially for young folks out there. I'll start with you. Your favorite thing, or in a goofy TV segment, what should they know about the legacy of Cornbread?
Well, I'll give you the bookends of his career.
Perfect.
He started in the first rock and roll band to ever come out of the state of Minnesota, the Augie Garcia Quintet. They opened for Elvis and upstaged him and got pulled off the stage because Colonel Parker was worried that they were going to get the girls too crazy and that Elvis wasn't going to be able to whip them up the same way. And still today, at age 97, he still plays at least once a week here in the Twin Cities. The only reason he's not here with us today is because he was out late at a gig last night at Commerce.
That is great.
He's unstoppable and he's historic, and his life story is just really incredible.
Jimmy, what's your favorite thing? Like, I know it's such a simplistic question, but if you could pull something that people will take away, because that is a great takeaway, what would it be?
Well, I just think historically, when Terry and myself were fortunate to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I thought it was very fitting that, as Andrea said, he played literally on the first rock and roll record that was made in Minnesota. So that I felt was my credentials to get in, if nothing else.
I will go into more on the other side, but bouncing back to you, again, I love to brag about the show where we're based. We were literally talking about, in the commercial break, the purple on the set is an homage to the city we're in, Prince, and then my grandmother who loved the color. What is it about the Minneapolis sound? What is it that makes it so special?
I think it's really a mix of all the different kinds of music. It's very eclectic, it's very inclusive, and intentionally inclusive. It brings audiences together. Still to this day, I think at like the Taste of Minnesota when Jimmy and Terry came home, or when you go to a Prince tribute concert, those are going to be the most mixed audiences that you see in the Twin Cities. So I think at the core of it, it's this music that kind of tears down the walls and brings people together.
Would you echo that, Jimmy?
I totally echo that, and I feel like as we lived through the Zoom era of the pandemic, one of the things that always struck me was how when you get on a screen with a bunch of people, the first thing you notice is their differences. Their color of their skin, male, female, whatever. whether they have a good, background or not, and their
What's on
lighting.
their bookshelf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you notice everything that's different. But as soon as you put music on, you see everybody do this at the same time. And music is the thing that just unites us all together. So to me, I think the Minneapolis sound was very much eclectic in the sense of it was rock, it was pop, it was R&B, it was blues, it was jazz. It was really all these things coming together. And of course, Prince was the best example of that. And the fact that getting a chance to work with him really rubbed off on us, I think. So we now take that music around the world and it unites people.
Perfect place to leave off, and it's a perfect place to pick up when we come back. Back after this. Welcome back. More of our conversation with two of the greats, Jimmy and Andrea. The book, go get it. I'll tell you information on how to at the very end. Let's get into the finally save the career for last here. I'm going to throw out some things. You tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, Jimmy. When you executive producer Jeff and I were kind of geeking out, and we try to be professional with guests, but yeah. But we're of the generation where Janet hit right when we were teenagers. So you mean a lot to us. Your music means a lot to us. I think we represent a big chunk of our audience. Let me just ask a very basic question. What is the magic of Janet? Every artist has something, but what is it about Janet?
Ooh, well, I think first of all, growing up in a musical family, so she was exposed to a lot of great music, and I think that rubbed off on her, so to speak, and she kind of got the chance to watch her brothers perform with them, do all of that. And the thing we were able to bring to her, I think, that worked was she had so much attitude as a youngster. If you watch her to old TV shows and that. And that's what we were able to bring back on Control. And also bringing her to Minneapolis, I will say, geographically was a big thing, rather than the comfort of LA.
Why?
Well, because she was kind of going through that point of her life where she was kind of growing up and growing into her own. And so she had been used to bodyguards and limos and all that kind of thing. We gave her, I think, a Chevy Blazer, a Thomas guide, because there's no GPS. No GPS is pre-GPS. And she had to get to the hotel, to the studio. I think we gave her like the directions to Blockbuster Video to get videos, or to the sushi place or whatever. But she literally grew up in Minneapolis. That's where she became independent and realized she could do things on her own. And that became
strategic on your part, my friend.
Well, no, we just wanted to come up here, so I don't know how much. But it all worked. So it all worked very well.
Was it okay? Strategic, but staying here.
Oh yeah,
that was on purpose.
Oh yeah, no. We definitely wanted to break. It was great when we first moved up here. A lot of people said, "Why would you be here?" And we said, "We want to be here. This is our hometown." But bringing the artists here was such a revelation in a lot of ways. I think about New Edition. We were talking backstage when we brought the Human League up, and they're from Sheffield, England. And kind of around this time of year, a lot of very cold and very snow, so there was a lot of culture shock. But to me, some of the greatest records came, I think, because we were very concentrated on working. It wasn't like we were trying to run to the beach or trying to do anything like that. It was like, let's be in the studio and let's get some work done.
And for you as a historian, a great era for the Minneapolis sound, would you not say?
Absolutely. I mean, that's when Jimmy and Terry are really responsible for taking it global. I mean, Prince got it started, of course, but it was very much tied to him and his projects. And then it started to extend to people like Janet Jackson and Human League, and it really made the Minneapolis sound a sound that could be, marketed and broadcast.
Howard Stern always does this really well when he's a lover of musicians and he has them go through the catalog and tell great stories about the making of it. And obviously in a TV segment of 4 minutes, I would love to dissect, but I'll ask you one. What have you done for me lately? There's a story, right? It wasn't really, you wanted it, didn't you?
Well, Terry and I we had thought we were going to make our own album.
Yeah.
So we started doing a bunch of tracks just for ourselves. And there was a guy named John McClain, well, still is a guy named John McClain, he's still around, but he was the A&R person for A&M Records. And he came to town to listen to Control. And we played him everything, and he said, like all A&R people do at record companies, I just need one more. So what are you talking about? We had Control, we had Nasty, we had Pleasure Principle, we had all these songs, right? When I Think of You, I just need one more. So anyway, we're in the car driving, we put on our cassette, we said, listen to our stuff. cassette, by the way, cassette. We put the cassette on. We put the cassette on. About the third song in, he goes, "That's the one I need for Janet. Play it for her, and if she likes it, give it to her." And we're like, "What are you talking about? That's for our album." He said, "No, play it." Anyway, Janet comes to the studio the next day. We put the song on, don't say anything. We watch her, she's on the couch. She kind of walks in, she kind of looks at us, she points at us. When the song goes off, she goes, "Who's that for?" And we said, "Well, you if you want it." And she said, "Oh, I want it." That song became "What Have You Done For Me Lately?"
Oh. Really?
Yes.
What is it like, before we run out of time, I heard a story once when Dolly heard Whitney sing "I Will Always Love You," and Dolly was in a car at a gas station and she heard it for the first time on the radio and she described it so perfectly. When you're hearing something, when Janet's done or you finish, you hear the produced, do you know right away usually this is going to be a hit? What is that moment like when you hear the finished product? Do you have it? Obviously, you have a good instinct, for heaven's sake. But I'm just saying, what is that moment like? Is there something? Is there a wiring that goes off in you that goes, "Yep, this is it"?
Well, here was the thing. We always made records, and still do to this day, to please ourselves, quite honestly, almost selfishly, because we feel like if we're happy with it, then other people will agree with us. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing with that record. And I remember we were living in LA at that point in time. We had this little house, and I remember there was the neighborhood, and we'd always hear music blasting out the neighborhood. And I remember the day I walked down the street and I heard "What Have You Done For Me Lately" blasting out of people's houses. And that was like, oh, okay, I think we got something here. So yeah, that's always a great feeling. Yeah.
A great feeling is having the both of you. Thank you, Mike, on the couch. Thank you. Jimmy Jam, Andrea Swensson here. Be sure to pick up, right there, be sure to pick up a copy of the book, Deeper Blues, wherever you get books. Go get it right now and learn about the legend that is Cornbread Harris. We're going to take a break, everyone. Back after this. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to come hang with us. We want you to be part of our studio audience. The good news is tickets are completely free. Well, Fallon does charge you a few Fallon fees, but that's fine.
Yes.
Head to eventbrite.com and search the Jason Show. Pick a date and join the fun. Please only pick a day where you can really show up. Like tomorrow. Yeah. That's right. I just got a note that we have like 2 farm animals here. Okay, that's great.
Oh,
that's right. We'll be right back. Back in a moment, everybody. Those gosh darn Tuesdays. They're always hard. Welcome back. Guess what? Tomorrow, Fallon is waiving her fee for the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Just tomorrow, though. Just tomorrow.
No, all kidding aside, we got to fix, Jeff, we got to offer, maybe we give away stuffed animals or something on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are always hard for the student. I don't know.
That's a great idea. Let's keep workshopping that.
Cigars or something? I don't know. But come see us tomorrow. We have a Dale K and then a hot saxophone player. That's right.
He's not kidding. We just saw photos of the hot saxophone player.
We might have Google stalked him in that commercial break. So come see the hot saxophone player tomorrow.
Tis the season.
Tis the season.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then also coming up tomorrow, I want to see you canoeing with the manatees. I can't even say that with a straight, because really quickly, you have 30 seconds. Tell them how you got frustrated with your daughter.
Well, because everyone else got a real partner in a kayak, and I got a 5-year-old. And she literally at one point laid back like this, and I'm like, come on.
She's 5!
I know, but like, at least pretend like you're helping. Gosh.
Olive, you can come stay with Auntie Jason tomorrow on the show, taking care of her holiday plants. Like I said, Garden Guy Dale K is here with the do's and don'ts with your favorite Christmas plants. That's going to do it. Plants, not anyway. If you're a kid being bullied, you go out there and be yourself, because nobody can tell you you're doing it wrong. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Cora.